Here are my 10 tips for flying a drone and becoming a better drone pilot. Tip 1 is to mark your batteries. Now what I mean by that is to take either a piece of paper or a sticker or something, and you're going to mark 1 through whatever number of how much batteries you have. So right here I have my battery, and it should look like this. So I just have a piece of paper. Now why you want to label your batteries is because when you go to charge your batteries, you can know exactly what battery it is, and then you can see how much times you have charged it and used it. And this will overall help your battery performance, and it will last longer. My second tip for you is to be aware of your battery. Now you don't want to be caught with your drone far away from you and at a low battery percentage, because if it's too low, your drone will automatically land. Now you always want to land at about 20%, and this will maximize your battery percentage, and it will last the longest. You'll get the most lifetime out of your battery. My third tip for you is to be aware of your surroundings. Now what I mean by that is to be aware of when you have, for instance, trees behind you or buildings or any other type of obstacle. So what I would want to do is when I'm taking off with a drone, I want to see if there's any low tree limbs near me or any branches that I could hit. When you're flying your drone, you want to be careful for tree limbs behind you and to the sides and in front. And when you're drone, you always want to set your return to home point, your return to home, higher than the tree line or any obstacles in the way. My fourth tip for you is to be aware of the weather and the wind. So what I mean by that is when you're flying your drone, the wind, if it's just a small breeze on the ground, it can be a lot windier the higher up you go. So you always want to check for weather and wind. I'm using UAV Forecast, but there are a lot of other apps that you can use. Now you always want to see how much wind resistance your drone has, but it's always best to fly in lower wind conditions and to always watch the weather. Be aware of the weather, because on cloudy days it's hard to see where your drone is, and be aware of stormy clouds because it could start raining and water can damage your drone. My fifth tip for you is to fly lower. Now what I mean by this is you can fly at high altitudes, but everything looks slower, and you can speed this up in post-processing, but you get a more cinematic look when you're flying lower. If you're flying low to treetops, just always be aware that you're not going to hit anything and you won't damage anything, including your drone. Now my sixth tip for you is to always back up your drone footage. Now what I mean by that is when you're flying and you might accidentally have a corrupt file, or your SD card could get corrupted, or you could lose the drone. Now you want to back it up to either a hard drive or your computer or whatever you choose. Just always make sure to back up your drone. My eighth tip for you is to take off your gimbal guard. Now this can be overlooked really easily, and what happens if you don't take off your gimbal guard is your gimbal will stay locked in a position and it will not be able to move, and that can either overheat your gimbal and it can damage your camera. My ninth tip for you is to shoot in a RAW profile. Now what I mean by that is when you fly your drone, you'll see in the settings it has JPEG or RAW. You always want to shoot in RAW for post-processing. Now RAW you have to edit to post it anywhere, but what RAW does is it gives you more flexibility with your camera. My 10th tip for you is to always shoot in a log format. Now not all drones shoot in a log format, but if yours does, that's the best option. Now a log format, when you first look at it, it looks terrible and it looks a blank, dull image. Now it has no saturation or contrast, but when you put it into your editing program, it can look a whole lot better. Now here's before with the standard normal camera settings. Now here's the log footage. Now if you do these 10 steps, this will help you as a drone pilot to get a lot better footage and it will help you with your batteries to last longer, and you'll just have a lot better experience. You'll get more cinematic footage, and it'll look better in the end.